I didn't sleep that night, not after the Wendigo had circled the cabin, not after hearing its breathing scrape against the boards outside, following me, waiting. Wilson pressed against my leg, trembling, his teeth catching the lantern light. His low growls warned me even before I felt it myself. Something was in the air, something older than the trees and hungrier than winter itself. The woods were no longer just watching, they were closing in. By dawn, I knew I had no choice. I couldn't run, I couldn't fight. All I could do was survive. The forest outside looked like a frozen graveyard, with trees bent at unnatural angles and shadows gathering beneath them like waiting graves. Every step toward the porch felt heavier than the last, and Wilson refused to move past the edge of the clearing, growling deep in his throat. So I stayed inside. I lit every lantern, every candle, and pushed furniture against the doors and windows. I whispered the rules aloud. Rule number 2, number 5, number 8, number 9, reciting them as if my grandfather himself were standing beside me. Maybe he was. Maybe the forest could hear me. The knocking began as soon as night fell. Soft at first, then violently shaking the walls, rattling the windows, thudding against the floors. Whispers slithered between each strike. My grandfather's voice, mine, and something else, low and guttural. Wilson barked at the shadows as I cupped my hands over his ears and prayed. Then suddenly, silence. It stretched long enough for relief to bloom in my chest, long enough to convince me the Wendigo had finally gone. But I didn't trust the quiet. I stayed in the corner with Wilson, listening to the cabin shudder under each gust of wind. Outside, the air carried something cold and terrible, an invisible pressure like winter itself leaning over the roof. I waited and waited. Morning came pale and gray, the sun weak and distant, barely touching the snow. The porch was empty, no handprints, no claw marks, no tracks. I stepped outside cautiously with Wilson at my side. He kept his ears down, alert but silent. The air was still. The forest seemed to be holding its breath. I touched the edge of the well. Frost covered the splintered wood, and nothing stirred beneath it. Even the darkness inside seemed ordinary. For the first time in days, I felt a fragile sliver of hope. I didn't know whether the Wendigo had retreated or whether it was waiting. I didn't know if the forest had spared me or if I had simply survived another test. But I knew one thing. I was still alive. And for now, that was enough. I returned inside, closed the doors, bolted them, and sat with Wilson beside the dwindling fire, watching the gray morning unfold. The Wendigo was still out there. The forest was still hungry, but I had survived for today.